Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and of course at the end of the video, I talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured in the video. Now let's get started. This week I had a pretty small haul for the amount of books here, so I had 9 books. Number 9 for me is Captain America's Symbol of Truth, issue 1. I was honestly pleasantly surprised with issue 0. I'm not a Captain America fan, really, and I just thought it was a really good balance of action and story progression as well. So I was like, let me give these issue 1s a shot, even though I'm not as much a Captain America fan. I felt like this one didn't get me into the series as much as that issue 0 did. I think for Captain America fans, you're gonna enjoy it, but there wasn't any explosive moment here to be like, whoa, I need to go get this series. I think a good example of that is something like Punisher, right? I'm not a Punisher fan by any means, but there's some sort of hook there and some good character narrative that's gotten me hooked to read more Punisher, or at least this volume of Punisher, where here I don't really think, as a non-Captain America fan, there was anything to really latch on to. So, but the artwork was really good for this. I think that was something that did stand out for me. So overall, I'm going to give that 2.5 stars, and that's number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Hulk vs. Thor, and this is Banner of War, issue 1, Alpha, very, very, very long title, and honestly, I haven't really been looking forward to this event. I know this is something that we're all supposed to be looking forward to, and that's mostly because I've been loving Thor so much. I didn't want this series to take away from the beats that have been going on in Thor, and as someone who has not been enjoying the Hulk as much, I was like, oh, do I really want them to have a whole month worth of story to see them cross over? Do we necessarily even need that? And, I think it did a good job at trying to showcase why they would meet together, besides just like, it'd be cool to see Thor and Hulk fight. It was interesting to see that Hulk has stuff going on in his head, people talking in his head, and now Thor does too with his father, and the cliffhanger from the Thor anniversary issue does connect at the end here, and I'm honestly more fascinated with the Thor issue coming up, because we had a good cliffhanger here, where it was Odin's son, just Odin. Odin confronting Bruce Banner in his head. And I was like, oh, that's going to be a cool fight. And honestly, it's a pretty cool concept. But it takes a while to build up there. There's at least 4 pages in the beginning for people who have never read Hulk or Thor and be like, hey, this is what's been going on. Which I think is necessary for a book like this. It is an alpha book. But as someone who's been reading both series, it just kind of felt fillerish to me. A lot of it is just action. And I feel like the pencils were so light here. I feel like there could have been stronger action. Because I would say the Thor regular series and the Hulk regular series has stronger artwork than the art we saw here. So overall, it was kind of what I expected. It's pretty much just an action issue, but there was definitely some layers that I enjoyed here, but I don't know if necessarily we need to see these two cross over. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 19. I just thought this issue was just kind of there. There's not much of a big plot point going on, and we get to see a lot of different subplots. So we get to see probably my favorite, the Green Ranger, just kind of figuring out, is he the favorite Ranger of the kids these days? So I thought that was fun, and then him teaming up with Rocky, I thought was a dynamic, we don't really get to see because Matt is a new character to the comics, but also because, Rocky is not one of the first Rangers, so I thought that was an interesting dichotomy here, but the other plot lines and where that underwater story went, and just that we have this Tommy and Aisha story, and then we jump to back to the Green Ranger stuff. I just thought, it could have been a little bit more focused, this issue, and also the art kind of takes me out of it. I don't think that I would say this is one of the weaker styles we've seen from the series, and again, it just kind of takes me out of the action. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Batgirls issue 6, and this issue, I had fun with it. I think the things I like the most here is just this Batgirls teaming up but not together. So we get to see them kind of dealing with the same villain in separate sections. So we get to see Batgirl kind of play an oracle role here because she's tied to a chair, and I thought that was some great action. Then we get to see Stephanie and Cassandra kind of dealing with their own thing as well. I'm not into the plot. I don't really love the future state stuff and still tying into that. I'm not a big fan of that, and I still think the artwork is a bit too dark for the tone it's trying to go for. But I enjoy the characters, and I think that's what really drives this series for me, and I thought shined pretty well in this issue as well. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is a new Image comic series, and that is 8 Billion Genies, issue 1. And I just thought it was an interesting concept. I like Charles Soule as a writer, so I'm like, let me give this one a shot. And I feel like that's what this issue really showcases, the concept. So it's not a world where we begin where everyone has wishes and just one wish, and they could say it and make it come real. It actually happens in the middle of this issue. Like, that's kind of the exciting moment of this happening. And then in the end, we're like, okay, well, how does this affect people? And mostly, obviously having your wishes come true is not always what you want. But then B, how about if someone else's wish kind of contrasts with your wish? So it was a very interesting concept. The reason it's not higher on the list is the artwork kind of took me a little while to get into. It's definitely grittier than I expected, but once the wishes came in, which were definitely brighter, I thought that was an interesting contrast. And then also there's no primary character. So we follow a group of characters, these band members, and then this little kid and their dad, and they're all in a bar. So there's a lot of characters, so for me, there wasn't a heart to this issue, which made it a little harder to say, oh, will I get issue 2? Because you're not really following a character journey. It's just kind of more of an exciting idea. So overall, I gave this 3 stars. I think if I have a light week, I'll try out the next issue. I think the premise was very interesting, but I don't know if it really pulls me to be like, I need issue 2. So like I said, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Naomi, issue 3. And this is just a fun issue. I love seeing Naomi interact with her parents, and we get a good chunk of that here as Naomi tries to figure out not just what it means to be a hero, but also what it means to be, 16 or 17, growing up and almost being an adult, and what that does with your relationship with your parents. And I kind of enjoyed that underlining story as, this more exciting Justice League stuff is happening. Now, why this is not higher, it doesn't really progress the plot too much. It really is just kind of a fighting, character-driven issue, but I thought the character stuff and the action stuff were good here. And, splendid artwork. Some of the best art on stands right now is in Naomi. It's just so good in cinematics. So, overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 11. And this one surprised me. Some of the past issues I thought have been a little slow, and I thought this was a little bit more focused with the character interactions I enjoy. I'm glad that they're trying to give a little bit more story to Jay and John's relationship. That was definitely a big focus here, to just kind of build their trust and to build more of their story. And what I really liked was Batman's role here, where Batman's like, well, you can't trust Jay because this, and that. And John's like, no, I don't want to really trust that because I like this guy. And then it's between John Kent, Superman's dad, and Batman having a conversation of, how to raise John and how to raise a Superman. And I really love the moment where John Kent says, yeah, I always talk to Alfred, and I thought that was a really good moment. And those are the moments where Tom Taylor shines the most, is those type of character beats. And I thought that really, really drove the story. The end, you actually get more of the action stuff, which I wasn't as interested in as the character work that we got to see in the first half of the issue. The artwork is very solid for this book, especially for more of the action style stuff here, but also the facial expressions with the emotions, and it's a bright book as well. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I had a good time with this one. I thought it was a better issue than what we've been seeing in the past couple issues. So, like I said, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is 7 Secrets, issue 17, and this is the penultimate issue of this series. The series, I think, has been really consistent overall, and this one we get to see, the opener is so good. We get to see Eva, the mom, and kind of her relationship with the birth of her child. And this is all because Casper has died. And we learn that he's kind of not dead. He's now like converted into a god, but it's not actually Casper. And we really build up a Mon story, who's the villain, as we also find out the people that died didn't actually die, and they're going to be part of the narrative as well. And then by the end, we get to see Casper as this god. But will he continue to be this god in the finale? Will we get Casper back? I just thought it was a good emotional and even action-driven build-up to a finale, which is exactly what a penultimate issue should do. So it was really fun anime-style artwork here, and action and emotion. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to my pick of the week, and this was just such a phenomenal book, and that's Crossover issue 13. This is the finale of Crossover. And as a writer, as a creative, and honestly, if you just enjoy comic books, I think you will love this issue. It opens up with Donny Cates dying, and he's like, well, let's talk about the death of the author. Let's talk about maybe my opinions about my story don't matter. And the audience kind of takes it up and creates their own world, and it becomes this very metatextual story about, you know, what it means to be a writer and what it means to be a comic writer, because that's where we get to the end of this story of, you know, not even just like a prose writer. We talk about the importance of an artist, and that's where we get to the end of like, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't kill me, you know, even though I die, it's okay. You gotta kill the artist. So if you really want to kill comic books, you gotta kill the artist. And in the end, you have this beautiful 1-page splash of just kill Jeff Shaw, who was the artist of this book. And it just was so mind-blowing, but so moving. And the emotion in this issue, where we get to see a real-life story of Donny Cates talking about why he loves comics and why he likes writing, and that he overdosed in real life, and then that is what inspired him to write God Country, and how God Country kind of became a beast of its own, but then all his other writings became a beast of its own. But then I also just enjoyed the commentary about how, you know, the beginning of this series is like, oh, this is supposed to be a love story, and then he's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a love story, but I'm not really good at writing love stories. Like, this action kind of over-the-top stuff is what I'm good at. Am I allowed to write a love story? And I thought that was super interesting. And I just feel like this is a issue you could just break down the more times you read it. And I love comics like that. And I think if you enjoy the medium, this is just such a beautiful love letter to comic books. Yeah, maybe it wasn't about the two characters falling in love, but it's falling in love with storytelling. And I just thought that was so powerful. So overall, I'm going to give that 5 stars. So perfect grade. Definitely go check it out. The artwork is great. There's great action, great emotion, and just something to say. And it was just a beautiful book. And if you haven't read Crossover, definitely go check out this series. It's definitely been one of my favorites on stands. And I think it's a great collection book as well. So go check that out. And in the comments below, let me know what your pick of the week was. And last week's viewer's pick of the week was Batman Beyond. And here are some comments about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one.